So when they come back, they'll be saying, "Well, it was good except for." No, okay. So as an artist, she's using the word in context. Is that find and replace? Okay. Well, got to see it first. So check that out. And then the other thing was, I have to tell you, some people actually were curious enough to ask me about this shirt. This is a shirt I brought back from Brazil, and given the fact that it's Mother's Day today, I said, let me wear this. What it says here is Week of the Black Mother. They had a celebration for the whole week this year, week of the Black Mama, right? And so, and the image here is a picture of the sister who is one of the leaders of a candomblé house called Candomblé Jitolu, which was the place out of which Ile Aye, a cultural center and education center, grew out of. So you've heard me talk about how Ile Omade grew out of Wose. Ile Aye grew out of the Candomblé house, the spiritual house that Sister Mai means mother in Portuguese, but Mai Hilda. So this was, it's kind of like nice, my mama, my Hilda, right? And lastly, as a point of personal privilege, I love you all very much. Like, I just like being around y'all. Because we had a good time last night. We always have a good time. And I was like getting ready to go to the program. Marsha and I were getting ready to go. And I was thinking, like, I'd rather be at home studying, like getting ready for the class. Because I actually like that part too. And I had to acknowledge the fact that I'm probably making myself busier than I normally would be, in part because today is the first Mother's Day that I've experienced without my mother physically. My mom passed in November, so this is the first Mother's Day, but I don't feel my mother's absence. I feel my mother's presence. And so just on that spirit, as she comes to present the Medu Nefer, what we call beautiful speech. That is the tradition of African people to come in and share the word. So as she comes, we give honor and praise to her mother and all the mothers that influence her. But please welcome Sister M.I.T, Tracy Brown.
Thank you. All right. I'm in Rahotep Wose. I give thanks for this day, this wonderful Mother's Day, the wonderful celebration that we've had here today. I give thanks for this opportunity to address the community, and I ask the Most High and the Netcheru, the Orishas, and the ancestors to come together with me and support me in delivering the message that I hope is exactly what people need to hear. So the topic of my presentation today is Mama is always watching over you. Remember your mama used to say she had eyes in the back of her head? And it seemed like she really did. Like as soon as the baby shoots out, then all of a sudden, boop, these eyes just sprout in the back of your head and they can see everything. It's interesting because many people know that I just bought my first home. And the neighbors that have the house behind mine, they have a cute little boy. He must be about 7 years old, and he loves baseball. So this little boy, instead of hitting baseballs behind his house, they gave him tennis balls to hit. So bless him, he is a big boy, and he wants to hit tennis balls hard. So he decided that he had a great idea. He was going to turn around, and instead of hitting them and having them bounce off of his home, he was going to turn around and have them bounce off of mine. Off of the back of my house and my roof. And I work from home, so my home office faces my yard. And so one day I'm working, next thing you know, I see this little boy hitting balls at my house. So I got up and I was like, hey, little boy, don't be hitting balls at my house. And I saw him crouch down trying to hide because he didn't know where the voice was coming from. It was so funny. And I'm trying not to laugh at him, but I'm irritated because I'm like, you don't be, hitting balls at my house. So I told him, I see you. Don't be trying to crouch down. You might not be able to see me, but I can always see you. And he looking like, oh, my God, the lady's a witch. But basically, it was interesting because I ended up talking to my neighbor about something later, and he was bothered by the fact that I had said something to his son. And he told me, well, if you ever have a problem with something that my child is doing, come tell me. And I told him, let me explain to you how it's going to go. If, in fact, I see your child doing something that it poses a threat to him or someone else, or that it threatens to damage my property, I'm going to tell him right then, and then I'm going to do what I'm doing right now and talk to you. So you should expect that that's how it's going to happen. And he was like, okay, I feel you. And I told him, I would hope that you would do that for me. If my children were in my yard playing and doing something that could hurt themselves or damage your property, of course I want you to say something to them. And then come tell me, because trust and believe they're going to get it when it gets to me. But the fact of the matter is we're neighbors and we have a responsibility to one another. And he was like, okay, yeah, I hear where you're coming from. But society has gotten to a point where we, in our minds, think that it's strange for people to reprimand children or discipline children in a healthy way in a space when they're doing something wrong. So, you think about these relationships that we have in our community with children, with other people. And in preparing this message, I started thinking about motherhood and it being sort of your first relationship. This relationship that I thought about the birth mother and this person who was given the sacred responsibility of carrying and protecting and nurturing you, that's sort of being your first relationship. But in actuality, your first relationship is with Amun-Ra. Your first relationship is with the Most High God, with the Father, Mother God, right? So when we think about the reproductive process, Amun-Ra is all up in there, even when the mother and father aren't conscious of exactly what's going on, right? So when we think about the reproductive process, you have sperm that reach the egg, and they in the fallopian tubes, and they surround this egg trying to compete to get into the egg, right? And then the head of each sperm releases enzymes, and they start to break down the sort of outer layer of the egg in an effort on this race to get to the center of the egg. And it starts to break down the jelly-like layer of the egg's membrane. And then once a single sperm has penetrated the egg, there is the egg changes its electrical characteristics, right? So the electrical signal causes small sacs just beneath the membrane to dump their contents in the space surrounding the egg. And this causes the contents to swell, and it pushes the other sperm out of the egg, right? And then this is done so that only one sperm can fertilize the egg, and the rest of the sperm die in 48 hours. So now this fertilized egg is called the zygote, and there's additional cell division, and the zygote gets pushed along the fallopian tubes into the uterine wall, into the uterine lining, and floats for about 2 days, and finally implants itself in the uterine wall about 6 days after fertilization. So this signals the beginning of formal pregnancy, right? And this implanted blastocyst continues developing in the uterus for 9 months, and the baby grows, and the uterus stretches until it's about the size of a basketball. So the baby is inside this woman's body growing. We know that, right? But when you think about a quote that Baba Greg gave us this morning, is to be born, one must first be conceived. And during that process of conception, the Most High is orchestrating this beautiful, I don't even want to call it magic, because then that sounds fake and weird and David Copperfield, right? It's this amazing process that was designed by the brilliance that created the universe, that takes place inside a woman's body. We cannot minimize how special and how wonderful that is, how important that is. And even before the mother is aware that the child is in there and that all this has actually taken place, the Most High is there with that being, forming that being, and guiding that process. That is amazing. The Father, Mother God, and all the Netcheru protected you before your earthly mother had any confirmation of your existence. Because some women say, well, you just know. I knew it. But the fact of the matter is, before you have that actual confirmation of existence, the Most High is already at work caring for that child, and as it was caring for you. The father plants the seed, but the mother is the receptacle. And all that really cool, complicated stuff takes place inside of a human being's body. That's astounding to me. When anybody has ever told me that they don't believe that God exists, I'm like, right. Look at the reproductive process and tell me that is not brilliance. That doesn't happen by happenstance or accident or coincidence. You know, we have to pay attention to those things. So in that time, when the mother has received the seed, she's Geb. She is the earth. This seed has been planted, right, in her as the earth. Her body holds shu and tefnut, air and moisture through the amniotic fluid, right? Her big, beautiful round belly even reminds us of the symbol of Ra. You have this circle with the dot in the middle. You know, that looks like a mother's belly. I thought that was really interesting. And Amun-Ra oversees this entire process. So we think about a mother watching a child play. You know, I like to observe people. I'm a photographer, and we're natural voyeurs. So I like to watch mothers caring for their children. And a mama might be standing there with another group of moms, and she's talking, but the whole time she always has her eye on this child. And if, in fact, the child falters or falls or goes into a place where they might be moving into danger, the mother will step in and put things to rights, either pick them up, reroute them, tell them don't do that, go over there, pick that up, stop that, whatever it is, right? The mom has got it, and she's right on it. And it's something that also comes very naturally. The other thing that's interesting is watching a mother of a small child, right? Even if the child can't play or whatnot and can't move anywhere, if you watch the mother of a small child, they're constantly like picking the baby up, tapping them. Yeah, girl, okay. Then you putting stuff on them and powdering and lifting the legs up and taking stuff off and picking stuff and this and that. And okay, yeah, and this. You know, it's like constant movement because these women are engaged in the natural process of caring for these children. It's just an amazing thing to watch. So when we think about the mother overseeing us when we are in need of guidance and care and assistance, right? We can also think about Amun-Ra overseeing every instance of the rebirth of your spirit. Right? So think about it. If the soul is everlasting, how many times has our soul been reborn in various forms? How many times has the soul been reborn in various forms? In the Husia on page 83 in passage number 2, you can turn there if you would like. Should be a Husia close to you somewhere. Page 83, passage number 2. It says, generations pass away since the first day of creation, and other generations come in their places. The splendor of Ra rises in the morning and goes to rest in the west. Men begat and women conceive, and every nostril breathes air. So this passage is talking about the cycle of life. Talking about this very important cycle of life. It happens over and over and over. And who's to say that every time the earthly body passes away, the soul comes right back instantly? Who's to say that? And if, in fact, the soul doesn't come back instantly, what's the soul doing in the meantime? Right? Whatever it is, whatever is going on, I know that the soul is in the care of the Most High at all times. That part I do know. That much I do know. I also know that the Most High has a plan for each and every last one of us. And physical life affords us the opportunity to gain valuable information and get valuable hands-on training for whatever that plan is. Whatever special purpose the Most High has set forth for us. Life is training us to assume that. Maybe not in this life and maybe not in the next, but at some point when the Most High deems us ready. If time is infinite, then there are an infinite number of opportunities to come to the school of life in the forms that are best suited for our development at that time. Okay? If time is infinite, then there are an infinite number of opportunities to come to the school of life in the forms that are best suited for our development at the time. In every life, we have various experiences, and along the way, we learn what to do and what not to do, right? Isn't that what moms teach us? What to do and what not to do, how to move through life. Doesn't it make sense that we would stack and compile that information and store it away to help us in the future? Some complain of unfulfilling life experiences or negative upbringings, right? Maybe an upbringing that was lacking in one way or another. And one thing that we can do is turn within and refer back to our previous ancestral lives. And we might just find that the experiences that we lack in this life may have existed for us in the last. May have existed for us in the last. And that, for me, that's a thought. That's something that I'm exploring. Now, if your biological mother isn't here for you because she can't be, maybe physically she has made her transition or she's far away, mentally she may be struggling with mental health issues, right? And maybe doing what she can to stay afloat in her own life. Spiritually, she may be in a tumultuous place and really doesn't have space for you. And emotionally, the same thing. She may just be unavailable, right? If she's not here for you in some way, or you feel like she's not here for you in some way, then look around you for additional manifestations of the mother energy, right? They say it takes a village to raise a child. That's a very important saying, and we talked about it in class this morning as well. Now, traditionally, we lived communally. We lived in groups, and you can still see this in Africa. You know, the people live in a compound, and I lived in a compound. My neighbor, his mom, his sister-in-law, his brother, like it, and everybody either lived in that compound or down the street. Everybody in this family. So people who consider them, we also see this down south and other places and in various spiritual communities where people who consider themselves family live in close proximity to one another, right? So you might live in one home compound, or you might kind of live in the same neighborhood or participate in the same community. And the beautiful thing about the design of, or the framework of this lifestyle is that you have many children, but you also have many mothers. You have many mothers. You have aunts, you have grannies, you have women of faith. You know, I grew up, we didn't live in the same neighborhood as everybody in our circle, but I had plenty of mothers in my church. Plenty of mothers in my church. I had my aunts we spent time with on a regular basis, but those mothers in the church were always there, calling me baby, handing me lemon cake, whatever, just giving me love, the love that I needed to help sustain my life. Even in the times when my mother was sick, when she was in the hospital, those women stepped up to the plate and were really there for me. And they all care for us. And I'm hearing people, I say, obviously other people have shared these experiences, right? Those women cared for us with no less fervor and no less commitment than they would care for their own biological children. That's just the way it worked. Communal living was an ingenious design, because it allowed for the sharing of resources and responsibilities. Thank you. The members of the commune or group bring their particular energy, their unique energy together for the good of the collective group. And we can also see that here at Ileomade. Earlier during service, I saw Jalea run over to the sister and sit on her lap. And last night, you see the parents talking about, oh, yeah, my child comes home talking about this person, or you're going to drop your child off at my house. Like, it really is a familial environment that needs to thrive, because I do still hope to have a child, and we need to make sure Ileomade is still here for my baby. for my baby. So, you know, we come together collectively and bring our collective goodness together for the care of our children and support of one another. The Netcheru also are a collection of spiritual expressions of the Most High who are working together for our good. In the same way that we in this community come together for the children, the Netcheru come together for us, right? And I want us to, at this time, turn our attention to a very special mother, Queen Mother M.I.T. Now, M.I.T is the mother of all Netcher and all Netcheru, and the vulture Netcher of the sky. She's depicted with a royal vulture crown and with a vulture or falcon feather headdress with its wings spread over her head as a gesture of protection. So her glyph includes a vulture, a loaf of bread as a symbol of the giver of food, an egg, which is a symbol of female fertility, and the sign of the sitting goddess, also wearing a crown. The vulture symbol of M.I.T represents many different things. The white vulture of Egypt was considered to be a highly maternal and protective bird, and the vulture was also immensely powerful and seen soaring in the heavens. They fly very high, and so the bird was associated with the gods, or with the Netchers. Neteru, excuse me. The wide wingspan of the vulture is seen as all-encompassing. And just as the royal vulture crown indicates, it's also seen as protective, that wide wingspan. We even see chickens using their wings to protect their children. So you imagine a bird with a much wider wingspan and how much more protective that bird can be. So Queen Mother Moot is part of the spiritual care team that has cared for you, not only since your physical conception, but since your spiritual conception, since the beginning of the beginning. If life is everlasting, if there is no beginning and no end to the spirit, Queen Mother Moot and all the Netchers have been there for you since the very beginning. And that should make each and every one of us feel very special. Very special. So even if you had a loving and engaged mom, she may have been amazing, but she couldn't be everywhere. And so guess what? The Most High was watching over you, as it always has and it always will. That the Most High often shows up for us as that voice, the one that we label something told me, right? Something told me not to go in there. Something told me not to do that. Something told me not to eat all of that. That's one I get. When I was a little girl, I loved Lucky Charms cereal. You couldn't tell me nothing about Lucky Charms. And I used to fantasize about one day I'm going to buy a box of Lucky Charms and I'm just going to eat the marshmallows. I'm going to kick all the little, Meow Mix looking wheat pieces out. And I am going to eat just the marshmallows. And so I went to college and I got me a box of Lucky Charms. And I sat there and I separated all the marshmallows out of this Lucky Charms, and I ate it, and I was in heaven. Ooh, I ate this bowl of Lucky Charms, and it was delicious. This marshmallows and all this food coloring in the milk, and at the time, it was absolutely delectable. It was like a gourmet treat. And then I woke up because my stomach was hurting from eating all that sugar. And I said to myself, now I understand why Mommy would never let me do this. Now I understand. Somebody told me not to eat this, and I didn't listen. So let's take a look at the Husia to see what the ancestors say about the love of a mother. In the Husia on page 56, passage number 12, we're going to read it together. Page 56, passage number 12, XII. Double the gifts your mother gave you, and care for her as she cared of you. She bore a heavy burden in you and did not abandon you. When she brought you forth after your months, she was still bound closely to you, for her breasts were still in your mouth for 3 years. She cleaned your filth without disgust in her heart and without saying, "Oh, what can I do?" She placed you in school to be educated and came there daily on your behalf with bread and beer for your teacher. Thus, when you become a young man and marry a wife and establish your house, lose not sight of your own childhood. Raise your children as your mother did you. Do not let her find fault with you, lest she raise her hands to God against you, and God hear her complaints and punish you. Now, I like that passage because it makes an important point. Whatever experience we have with our mothers, there's a certain degree of care that the majority of our mothers had given to us. And being a mother involves a lifetime of work. You never stop needing your mother. You really don't. You never stop needing your mother or a motherly manifestation. It's interesting, though, that the passage says, raise your children as your mother did you. Well, what happens when a person doesn't have a healthy mothering experience? And it happens. What happens when a person doesn't have a healthy mothering experience? Regardless of what Hallmark says, everybody's mother is not perfect, right? We all make mistakes. Everybody's mother was not perfect. And everybody's mama was not loving, wasn't kind, nurturing, or supportive. Everybody doesn't have those maternal instincts turned on, or they may have something that is blocking their ability to express them. That's a reality. That's a reality. And in that case, we have to apply logic to the content of this passage, right? We have to realize that our experience was a sacred learning experience. Absolutely a sacred learning experience. Don't raise your child the way your mama raised you. In this case, don't do what she taught you through her actions should not be done. That's still a blessing. You can take any negative experience or any learning experience and turn it into a blessing for yourself and for your children, for your future. I've met so many people, especially from my generation, parents that were on crack, parents that never really healed from PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome, parents who have just had any number of issues. And I've seen my peers, their children say, I want a better life for my children. And I want to do better by my children. And that has been touching for me. And I've seen that both in the sisters and the brothers. Since this is Mother's Day, I'm focusing on the sisters. But I've seen that from both the sisters and the brothers. And there's something to be said for that. That in itself is a blessing. One of the many things that I love about this faith is that it stresses responsibility for all. Everybody has responsibility. Everybody has a responsibility to do M.I.T. Children have a responsibility to do M.I.T. It's not that, honor your mother and your father blindly, period, point blank. It's also the parents have a responsibility to do M.I.T. Elders have a responsibility to do M.I.T. Everybody has a responsibility. Now, this is the last passage from the Husia. I'll ask you to turn to, if you would like, page 42. In the book of Ptah-hotep, in passage number 5, it says, if you are parents of worth and wisdom, train your children so that they will be pleasing to God. And if they do what's right, following your example, and handle your affairs as they should, do for them all that's good, for they are begotten of your own heart and soul. Therefore, separate not your heart from them. Now, it says, if you are parents of worth and wisdom, it doesn't automatically assume that every parent is of worth and wisdom. Every old person is not an elder. And every parent is not necessarily a good one. You can work to become, but it says if you are parents of worth and wisdom. And it also says, following your example. That means as a parent, as the leaders, and whether we are biological parents or whether we are part of that greater village community, we have a responsibility to set an example for the children so they know what to do and they know how to do it. We have a responsibility. Now, pointing out that recognizing that there were opportunities for growth and improvement in your upbringing doesn't discount or disrespect your parent. We evaluate every learning experience that we have so that we can better understand it, right? My parents let me eat Jell-O, dry Jell-O out of the box. I think that's a bad idea. I love them. I love my parents, but Jell-O out of the box for a child, some people who have had addiction, they forget years of their life. I swear to goodness, sugar. I have some sort of sugar situation where I was high on sugar for years, and I just have forgotten an entire time period of my life from eating dry Tang and Jell-O and whatever else I felt like eating, blue soda and everything else, right? Pixie sticks, exactly. But, so thinking about the things that we would like to do differently doesn't disrespect our parents. Life is not that cut and dried. Everything is not all good or all bad. The beauty of life and reality is the rich tapestry that is created by the good and the bad. They're interwoven. They're indeed interwoven. Paying attention to those things reveals opportunities for healing. And it also tells you where to proceed with caution with your own children and others. We all do the best we can with the knowledge that we have at the time. Reverend Eloise, who is the minister of East Bay Church, often says that. And it was one of those sayings it always stuck with me. We all do the best we can with the knowledge that we have at the time. And we have to remember that our mothers did the best that they knew how to do. Our mothers were the best mothers that they knew how to be. Somebody recently told me that oftentimes parents make even better grandparents because they done made all the mistake with the kids, and now they know what to do as the grandparents. And this was a grandparent telling me this. I thought that's really cute. But know that our mothers and fathers are on a journey too. They're also spiritual beings in the midst of a human experience, growing and learning and evolving just as we are. And we have to keep that in mind. And it helps us be compassionate, because when our kids grow up and start telling us about the stuff that we did and we're like, what? I didn't even realize that was a problem, right? Then we can be understanding. Now, if you are a grown person, you also have another opportunity. Be your own mama, right? Feel it for yourself. Be your own earthly mama. That's what I mean. Do kind things for yourself. Write little notes for yourself and put them in your lunch. Tell yourself how special you are and how much you appreciate you for various and sundry reasons. Make your favorite sandwich and cut off all the crust like you like them. Do that for yourself, right? Tell yourself, good job, insert name here. Right? Good job. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, I am so proud of you. Whatever it is you wish somebody had done for you, do it for yourself, because you have the power to do that. And do it for another child if you know that that's something that they would appreciate. Now, we can use all of this acquired knowledge from this life and our previous lives. It's accessible to us, right? Use this acquired knowledge to affect our history's future. I like that phrase, our history's future, right? So whatever we went through, experienced in the past, now it's not about the experience or the information from the past. It's about what we do with it now. And we can appreciate our positive experiences. We can also allow our less than positive ones to do their job in teaching us to do better. Allow your less than positive experiences to do their job in teaching you to do better. And give thanks every day for the sacred vessel, your mother, who brought you here. She had a sacred responsibility. Nobody can come into this world without a mother. Nobody can come into this world without a mother. Give thanks also that your sacred mother is always watching over you. Ashe.
Cool. One, thanks, Sister Tracy, one more time for that outstanding message on this Mother's Day. I'm going to ask you all to please stand, if you would, as we close out. Bob Jahid has an announcement. Mama Kanki has an announcement. So Bob Jahid is coming.
If I could take one moment, we had a great time last Sunday, good time this Sunday too, but we had one person missing. And I want to call up Miss Isis up here for a second. Come on up here, girl. And this child, and by the way, she went and did her application too online when she was down in LA. She had a wedding to go to, right? Yeah, so I've been knowing this child since she was, I think she was about 7 or 8, not really. And her mother came to me. This is when I first met Mama Oya. And this is one of my Mama Oya stories. So she came here one day because she wanted to roll her daughter to school, and she wanted to be very clear that her daughter was not a regular child, that she was an advanced child. And I said, well, you know, all the kids here are advanced, sister. Well, you know, but my daughter is exceptionally advanced, and I'm looking for her to go into 9th grade. Well, we only go to 8th grade. Well, the highest grades you have would be appropriate for my daughter. And so she began to tell me how she has raised her child. Her child's lived in, what, you lived in like 3 or 4 countries. By the time you was, what, 5 years old? Traveled all over the world. And so it didn't take more than a day to realize that, yes, she was indeed a very advanced child. But we still didn't have 9th grade, though. So just a wonderful kid. She is, it reminded me, and you're about what? You're almost 16 or almost 16 in 2 days? 16 and going up to college. Reminds me of Dr. King. I think it's about 15 and a half. Give her some love, y'all. So Howard University got this child's application, and they swooped her up real quick. This is back in, what, November or something? I think, maybe. So she was only 15 in. They was like, we want her. Spelman came a little late. They both gave her lots of scholarship money. So I want to give her a lot of love. So she will be going off. I think you're leaving in about 3 or 4 weeks to go to the pre-health program or something. And so her, Bakari, and Rita will all be meeting at Howard University very shortly. So I want to give her a chance to say about what she's doing now and what her plans are for next year. Besides, saying goodbye to your mama, but she got to stay here in California. Come on, girl.
Right now, I'm still doing the rest of schoolwork. I'm waiting for my classes to finish up. I'm working on my senior project, which is going to be a video about African American students in the STEM fields and the lack of representation in there and what's being done to change it. And I'm also at my internship at Children's Hospital and at the Lawrence Hall of Science. And yeah. We have projects going on in there too. Because of the one at Children's Hospital, it's actually at KDOL, and we're working on a PSA about healthy relationships. And then the one at the Lawrence Hall of Science, we are just working on the rest of our projects in there, and then I'm gonna have to be saying goodbye to them. Yeah. That's most of what I'm doing.
It's been 5 weeks. She leaves June 8th, and she'll be at Howard doing their pre-professional, those who are interested in healthcare, for those who are in hospitals, and get exposure to some of the science classes early.
Excellent. And before you go, last week, and Baba Jai, he has a little envelope for you at some point, a small financial scholarship contribution from this community. And what we did last week was, among other things, we celebrated you and your peers and are really proud of you and want you to know that we love you, we care about you, and that we always send you off with a little something. When I graduated from high school, the church I grew up in, this lady came up to me last Sunday. I was in church before I went off to college, and she had this little real, frilly, feminine handkerchief, and it had coins in it, and it was tied up, and she was like, "Baby, if you ever need change for the bus," and it was and that was really important to me. And somehow through the years, I've lost that little pouch, but I didn't lose the idea of that. And so as part of the idea of that, we want to present you with a copy of the Husia. It's the wisdom of your ancestors. And, baby, if you need a little bit of wisdom, you go to Husia. Okay. Mama Kaki, you had something?
No, that was it. I didn't want to make sure she was acknowledged.
Exactly. Excellent. And Brother Sinbad, you had something? That's it.
Spiritual Life and Assistance meeting is tomorrow. Please, if you are on the commission, plan to attend the meeting. It's not as exciting as the other meetings, but sometimes we have to do mundane stuff because
Just exciting.
we're responsible for it. Yes, 6:30.
Okay. Any other announcements before we sing Lift Every Voice? All right. All right, Lift Every Voice.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Now to the ones that are able to keep us from falling, the ones who have taught us for countless generations that we are one people, having one faith, one aim, one destiny, one God. It is called that name that our ancestors have taught us for countless generations. Let us all say, you are the most beautiful people on the face of this earth.
Any birthdays this week? Any birthdays? I got a birthday coming this week? No birthdays?